Okay, now we're going to discuss power supplies. So the overview of power supplies, they have a standard power supply that converts AC to DC. So we need DC power in computers. And it also conditions the power by evening out any fluctuations. Computers are, the classical computers, these older ones are very sensitive to power fluctuations. They also require a fan because that conversion, they waste some heat. So any heat that you lose can build up and then cause some issues inside of there. If you heat up computer components, they don't function right. So they have a tolerance. They have a tolerance for heat and they have a tolerance for cold. So you have to be inside that band. If you get too far out of on either side, they won't function properly or they function like too efficiently. So they love to be cold, they hate to be hot. So standard power in the US is 110 volts AC or alternating current. And then it oscillates at 60 hertz. And then overseas, you'll have typically 220 volts and oscillate at 50 hertz. And then today's power supplies, you can set them for 220 to 110, but people used to forget to do it. So now they've kind of backed away from that. And what they've done is they've engineered the power supplies, even in laptops and desktops. You have to check them though, but they'll handle, read the little fine print on there. They'll handle 220 or 110, and they'll handle 50 and 60 hertz. So as long as you can physically plug it in, you might need an adapter versus a converter. So a converter will convert the power, so it'll take the 220 and make it 110 at 60 hertz. So it'll take the 220 at 50 hertz, and it'll convert it to 110 at 60 hertz, or it'll just adapt it. So be careful when you're buying these things because you have adapters versus converters. So if you ever melt your gear, you probably needed an adapter, a converter versus an adapter. But most computers today, all laptops, all desktops will handle 110 at 60 or 220 at 50 hertz. And then the last bullet here is you must consider physical size, wattage, and connector types when replacing a power supply. Yeah, so it has to fit in the box, right? That's what they mean by the physical size. And then you have to consider the power supply itself, like how many volts, how many watts is it putting out, that kind of thing. Some of the computers today, these gaming boxes, they can consume 1200 watts easy. They'll sink 1200 watts. You need like two physical connectors on the video cards, these big long video cards, they'll chew up 1000 watts on their own, some of them. And then the power supplies, when the CPUs are overclocked, they'll consume 1000 watts. So you might, I've seen gaming systems with 2 different power supplies in them just because one wasn't enough. And a lot of them will if you buy a cheaper one, like the Antex are usually pretty rock solid. The Antex will guarantee, that's even kind of aging itself, right? There's better, newer ones than that now. The Antex, they would handle 1000 watts continuously or 800 watts continuously. But some of the other ones are rated at 800 watts, but only for a short amount of time. If you consistently pull 750 watts from them, they'll burn out prematurely. So you'd go through a power supply every few months. And if that's the case, it's the brand you're buying. It's made to peak out at that voltage, but not for continuous operation. So kind of like in Galaxy Quest, when the guy's like, press the turbo and hold it down. And like, it's not made to be held down, it's made to just burst. So that's kind of how power supplies work too, right? They're made to handle that peak wattage, but not for a sustained amount of time. It just can't handle the heat, the chips aren't designed for it and they'll break down, or you might have a multiple breakdown, something like that. So they can generally be fixed or repaired if you know how to do it, but I don't recommend opening them up if you really don't know what you're doing, you should not be opening those things up. Some of the capacitors in there can, when they pop off, if you short them out or if you touch them in the wrong place where the 2 prongs hit you, that can stop your heart. It's enough voltage in there to stop your heart. So it's not worth it. Don't mess around with it. One trip to the hospital is a lot more expensive than replacing the power supply. So power supply sizes. Power supply sizes are based on the types of case and motherboard connections, right? The different kinds of connectors. We have the AT style found on older computers and earlier Pentium systems. And now we have the new ATX style, which is the current technology for this presentation. It's not in real life. And then these are found in Pentium 2 and later systems. So they tried to standardize it so if you changed the board or did an upgrade, you didn't have to change the power supply. You should compare the existing power supply with a new one before replacing it. Don't force those things to fit. They're all matched special so that you can't force them. If you're like, oh, well, it would fit if I just cut this plastic out of here, that's a bad thing. You don't want to do that. That means you have the wrong power supply. So don't go doing that kind of stuff.